Hi, Dr. Dina Churchill here, innovator of women's health and wellness, and I'm presenting today from Sherbrooke Drive in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Just want to say a shout out to Robert, my stepdad, who has graciously given me a place to stay when I had to sell my house quickly, and also allowing me to be here to take care of my mom, who's recovering from bowel cancer surgery. So, Robert, we couldn't have done it without you. So, when you're watching this video tonight over dinner, know that we love and appreciate everything that you've done and that you're doing. And I just want to say that bed here at your house is a lot more comfortable than a park bench. So a shout out to Robert. But Robert and I were having a conversation the other day about the Titanic. You know, the Titanic sunk just off the coast of Nova Scotia. And I'd watched a documentary about how J.P. Morgan, the owner, really sunk the ship. He got rid of the opposition to the Federal Reserve and allowed him then to fund World War I. At the same time, of course, collecting insurance money from the ship sinking. So it was kind of a eye-opening documentary. But I started thinking, if that was a man-made disaster, the Titanic, and 9/11 was a man-made disaster, of course, those Twin Towers being taken out by explosives from the homeland, then what other disasters, could be man-made? Like the Halifax explosion that also happened here in Halifax. So Robert had given me this book, and I just wanted to read to you a passage from this book that I found really inspiring. But I'll just give you a little bit of information on the Halifax explosion. This video is going to be quick, so hang in there. Quick and hopefully inspiring. But the Halifax explosion happened in 1911 when two ships collided in the harbor. So the Mont Blanc was one ship, and this was carrying 3,000 tons of explosives. That says 6 million pounds of explosives. And, it collided with another ship and create this massive explosion. It was the greatest explosive, it was the greatest destruction from an explosion before Hiroshima. So it was massive. 10,000 people were injured. 2,000 people died. It wiped out a whole section of our city here in Halifax. And, even 50 miles away, windows were blown out by the blast of that explosion. So it was massive. And, I kind of wondered. The Mont Blanc was a navy. It was a big ship that navigated the coast of North America, that sailed the high seas of the Atlantic without incident, but would collide with a ship in our calm waters of Halifax water. It seems a little odd, but that would be the story for another day. But today I'd like to read to you a passage from this book. So it's The Great Halifax Explosion by John Bacon is the name of this. And it's a lovely book. I'm not really into history books, but I really love this. So this was a passage where they talk about the World War I. And even 5 months into the conflict, few believed they would still be fighting a year later. When the war's first Christmas approached in 1914, Pope Benedict asked for a one-day truce. The leaders refused. Now, why would the leaders refuse? Would it reduce their casualties? Would it somehow reduce costs of the war and munitions? I mean, when you ask what, you gain knowledge and you gain information about, but when you ask why, it's like it opens your mind to a different level of understanding and interpretation and into true wisdom. So asking yourself why something happens. Anyway, whatever the reason, the leaders refused for a one-day truce. But on Christmas Eve, the German and British troops sang Christmas carols to each other from their trenches. On Christmas Eve, the German and British troops sang Christmas carols to each other from the trenches. I just want to read that once more. When the leaders refused, but on Christmas Eve, the German and British troops sang Christmas carols to each other from the trenches. The next day, some brave German soldiers jumped out of their holes and walked across no man's land, unarmed, announcing Merry Christmas in French and English. Seeing that the Germans were unarmed, the Allied soldiers also emerged. And they were soon exchanging cigarettes and food, singing carols and playing a friendly game of soccer. The love of human nature. But The next day, they climbed back into their trenches and assumed killing each other. So I found that post really inspiring, that human nature and the love for each other can span beyond all religious indoctrination, beyond political persuasion, beyond countries' boundaries, that those men sang Christmas carols to each other on Christmas Day. But that passage came to mind this morning as I was replying to a comment on a vaccine information page. And this angry mother was asking in her post, why don't more doctors speak out against the dangers and injuries with vaccines? Why don't more doctors speak out? Good question. Why? Why don't more doctors speak out against vaccines and vaccine injury? Well, those doctors are like the soldiers in the trenches. They're trying to follow the orders from their superiors, from their associations, from their regulating bodies, whether it's doctors, nurses, healthcare workers. And those associations may be World Health Organizations, they may be different colleges, but they're trying to abide by their superiors and their laws. They're trying to feed their families and they're trying to stay alive. So more doctors, though, now are finding courage to lay down their arms of their old guard. They're starting to surrender and sacrifice for the greater good. And they're joining the love of human nature movement. But our message to them works better with education and encouragement instead of reprimand. They're doing the best that they can with what they know and have. And if we could all sing more Christmas carols and refuse to go back and be silent in the trenches, we would end the war. I would like to thank you for watching and invite you to reach for the stars, envision and achieve your personal best. And most of all, enjoy the journey. This is Dr. Dina Churchill signing out.